All right.
He reads,
She writes,
and we love stories.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the He Reads, She Writes podcast.
Hi, welcome. This is part 2 of us
our
covering X-Men 97.
coverage. We're recording this a little bit earlier in the week than we normally do because we want to get this out for you guys.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
In a timely manner, working on it.
Yeah. Try and get it out tomorrow, but we'll see what happens because it takes a little bit of time to edit and then upload and all that fun stuff.
And we talk too much.
That's debatable.
I talk too much.
We talk. We love talking.
We do. And we love the X-Men. And
people enjoy listening.
This is We Love X-Men, and these last episodes. So on our previous podcast, we covered episodes 1 through 5. And in this episode, we're going to be covering episode 6 through 10 of season 1 of X-Men 97. And we're going to try and do our best to get through all of it in this podcast. And what I mean by that is not anything about us, but those are really dense episodes. A lot happened. And so I'm going to preface it by saying, forgive us if we forget something, because a lot happens. So let us begin with episode 6, which was Life, Death, Part 2.
Yeah.
Which was better than Life, Death, Part 1.
It was, and for me...
But it was still the weird one.
I have to say.
Okay.
Episode 6 had the storyline that I felt the least interest in out of all the storylines in the whole series. Yeah. The bird people. The space birds.
Space birds.
The Shi'ar,
X-Men
as they're called.
in space!
I understand that they were in the original series a little bit. And I understand
they're in the comics
that
a lot.
they're important in the comics.
Yeah.
That's great. But this is a TV show. And I understand that they were the vehicle to get Professor X alive again and back to the X-Men.
Yes.
But I just could not find it in me to care about their internal political drama. It just felt really
I think it was
boring to me. I hate to say that, but honestly, I was just, okay, can we move on here? Can we move on?
Yeah. I knew enough of the comics that I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. But he doesn't know any of the comics, so it wasn't that fun.
I haven't read the comics that they're in.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. Yeah, it was interesting. I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to make it was supposed to be kind of like a meta commentary using characters who are not in the thick of it, as the rest of the rest of our characters in X-Men 97 are currently in the thick of all of the mess that is happening. And so I think it was trying to kind of back up and take a breath, which was weird on the heels of episode 5's ending, which was the death of Gambit. So tonally, it was weird. Yeah, it was weird in that these characters we haven't seen since the 90s. And then we have half an episode with them, because the other half of Life, Death is more Storm and Forge, and their processing and kind of their love story also. So it's the format of the story is 2 relationships. Is Professor X, Charles, and Lalandra, the Empress of the Bird People, Shi'ar, and Forge and Storm. So it's those 2 and their relationships and their dynamics and their basically power struggle, because they're all very powerful characters. Particularly the women in those couples are very powerful women, and they are trying to figure out their place in where they are, but also how their relationship works in all of this. Storm is trying to figure out her feelings and about herself with the adversary and kind of the self-doubt she's having, but also it's complicated by the fact that she likes Forge and his technology made her this way, made her lose her powers. So she is having a kind of a two-pronged struggle of who am I and who is this guy? And then Forge is there being like, I am doing my darndest to support you in everything. And he does I have to say, from the perspective of a woman with a partner, Forge does a wonderful job being just humble, and he is just trying to make up for it and to be there for her. And he does a really, really good job of being strong where she needs him to be strong, but also supporting her to be strong where she needs to be strong. And that, like, he's not doing things for her, but he's not handicapping her, but he's supporting her. And then you cut to Charles and Lilandra, and none of that is happening.
Yeah.
They have a very dysfunctional, emotionally charged relationship that seems to be, from what I remember of the comics, their connection and their bond is primarily in the fact that they are both very powerful telepaths. And that is initially how they get connected and how they get together. So they kind of are having an emotional affair. Then now that they're in the same space, it's become obviously kind of a physical affair. But they don't know how to support each other in the way that they need to be supported.
Yeah.
Lilandra is an empress and Charles is a professor. They don't know how to be what the other person needs.
Yeah.
And I think that is accentuated by the power couple that is Storm and Forge. And so I think that's also part of the problem, is that we are seeing the brokenness of Charles and Lilandra, who seem to have it all going on, but really the cracks are starting to show. Lilandra does not have it together with her empire, and her sister, who's weird. She's awesome, but I would let's have some more Lady Deathbird, please, because she's awesome. But also, like, it was random, so it was both. So I think that was also what made it unsatisfying, is that they didn't end up together.
Yeah,
tell us about
provoked some opinions in me.
So
good. First of all, just from like a
opinions.
meta storytelling perspective, which maybe we kind of lean into on our channel a little bit.
We do. For sure.
I really despise when stories do this thing where they leave you on a really emotional cliffhanger and then don't come right back to it. I get so mad. Maybe I'm just an impatient 21st century American. But
no, I think it's a valid
you can't have this moment where Rogue is holding Gambit's lifeless body and weeping, and there's also the question of, like, what happened to everyone else? Did Magneto survive? But there's all these, like, hanging threads in Genosha that we want answers for because we were teased about it and were promised answers.
And
then they spend a whole episode going into, like, oh, by the way, Professor X is in love with this lady that he's obviously not going to end up with.
No, like, it just doesn't make sense.
Which brings me to my second point, which is, like, the whole thing with the Shi'ar. You could see right through the fact that this was just a contrived plot device to show you that Professor X is actually okay and is going to be coming back to Earth. So
it should have been much shorter.
That's like two major strikes against it already. Is, like, number one, it's not telling the story that I wanted to learn more about, that I was super interested in, that I had bought into.
Yeah.
And they're essentially just using these people as a throwaway device for the sake of the plot and advancing the story.
I think what also really bothered me...
Strike three, which I already mentioned. They just weren't interesting to me.
They weren't interesting.
So
they're interesting
it's hard
if we had time to know who they were.
Yeah.
And what their deal is.
Yeah.
Like,
if they did a whole season or a whole series where they were kind of a central society, I would give that a shot and I would watch that. But just the way they were used and the blandness of them, which, if you disagree with me, let me know.
And the bird people.
But they were all kind of, they felt like very, like, weak and two-dimensional to me. And, like, they were all kind of
because we didn't have time to flesh out anybody.
Yeah. And so, I felt like It just wasn't a good storyline.
And the whole point of the entire Shi'ar Empire was to get Charles off his butt and back to Earth. Like literally. It's just and this is a thing that bothers me. Not as much as the things that bother you. But it bothers me when characters act dumb for the point of plot. And Charles Xavier is a professor and he teaches and he's supposed to be like this very wise person who's experienced all these things, and it takes him the entire episode to figure that out when it's like, no, this is your character, this is who you are, and so he has to spend the entire time being like, oh, I'm in love and I'm stupid. Like, no, that doesn't make any
I guess that
sense.
That was another thing. Now that you're saying that, it's like he just felt very out of character.
I felt very out of character, like.
And he's such an awesome character that like taking him out of character to have this weird side quest that is completely irrelevant to everyone and everything that we've been investing in for 5 episodes. Yeah. Just felt like a crime against the show.
It was disappointing. So to be sure. Now, switching gears. Storm's glow up and
that was
costume change.
That was incredible.
I am lightning. Oh my gosh, that was just so good. And I was so good, and I could like, I don't even know if they cut to him, but like Forge is like laying on the floor of that cavern being like, you go girl, like, you know, like you just know it, he's just rooting with her, and it's just it was so good. And the other thing that was a little bit confusing is we were unclear as to the timing of this episode in relation to episode 5. So apparently this episode 6 was happening concurrent at the same time as episode 5. So at the end, when Charles has the vision, you know, he's doing the whole classroom thing, and then he has the vision of, my children of the atom, they're dying. That is because he is getting the psychic backlash as it is happening. Yeah. And that was not clear. So if that had been clear, I think that would have helped a lot.
Yeah. I have one more. I wouldn't necessarily call this a complaint, but definitely a point of confusion with this episode. And that is backing up to when Storm lost her powers.
Yes.
We talked about this the other day.
Oh, we did talk about it last time. Yeah.
When Storm lost her powers, she lost them at a genetic level.
Yes.
Right? Like Beast does a DNA scan and she's actually human. She's no longer immune.
Correct.
And it was very unclear to me when I was watching this episode how her powers came back.
Yes.
It felt very...
that was confusing.
Yeah. It felt very plot armory. And I don't think Storm is a character that needs plot armor. Or she shouldn't be.
Yeah, I think they were trying to make a point. And there is one line where she says, "Oh no, your machine worked and it gave me my powers back."
Yeah, and I didn't catch that.
She said one time. Like, and she says it after after she gets her powers back and has her whole like fly around and everything. Meanwhile, Forge is on the floor dying because he's got poison in his arm. And then she comes back and is like putting the thing on him. She says it then.
And I didn't catch it. So
like, why do we say it then? Why do we say
full disclosure? I may have been like very tired and dozing at that point when we were watching it for the first time.
But it's not very well explained. Yeah. Like there should have been a discussion as to like, I don't understand why your powers haven't come back. I can see your X gene. Like, why didn't
something like that would have been like really,
look,
really
it's
good.
Back. Like, just do it. And like, I understand that like Forge doesn't really talk like that, but Storm monologues like everybody, so she could explain. She could explain.
Yeah. So that's honestly unclear. My only critique of the Storm and Forge storyline
was the clarity. Yeah.
I thought the rest of it was great, like the moment where she gets her powers back and fights off the demon adversary guy.
I really appreciated that.
So good.
The adversary was also random. But the cool part about the adversary is that it's voiced by the same person as Storm. So it's the same voice. It's her voice taunting her, and it's her voice, you know, saying all these terrible things to her, which was a really, really nice touch. And I think it reminded me... It's a little tangential, but it reminded me of in Prince of Egypt. In Prince of Egypt, Moses is voiced by Val Kilmer. So is God. God is also voiced by Val Kilmer, and so it's when he has, the Moses and the burning bush and God is talking to him, it's his voice he's hearing, but like amplified and made cool. So it's kind of the same idea of like the spiritual thing that you're contending with and that is pushing you is also you, but also like gonna make you. It's a bit of an Elsa thing too. So that was cool. It made me think of that. So I liked that touch.
Yeah. So I think episode 6 kind of a mixed bag. I really didn't like the Shi'ar storyline, but
that was
maybe some people did. Maybe some people thought it was cool. If that was you, let us know. Let us know how bad my takes are, or how good my takes are. I feel like this would be a take.
So here's my thing in favor of the Shi'ar. I think the problem with the Shi'ar is that they didn't get a whole episode. They didn't even get a whole episode by themselves, and they are an entire empire. They need more than half an episode for us to fully understand what the heck is going on. And I understand they were in the original. That's fine. But also, it's been 30 years. We need a refresher.
I wonder if...
So what I appreciate, what I'd like to see is in, season 2 or 3, all of the X-Men team, we go into space and we spend some time with these characters and we fully flesh out Gladiator because he seems awesome. He's like Marvel Superman going over there. And like, let's have conflict with Deathbird and Lilandra, and maybe Deathbird is trying to take over and Lilandra's like, yo, help me. Human friends. Like, that would be interesting, and I would appreciate that.
I kind of think if they had added 5 minutes to the storyline and spread it out over the first 3 or 4 episodes instead of putting it at the start of episode 6,
like
that might have landed
Charles
a little
all the
bit
way through.
Better. Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah, I didn't like this bait and switch of like Cyclops dealing with the death of Charles, and it's like, surprise, he's not dead. Like, he's living his best life. Like, that was kind of cheap.
Like, there were better ways to do this, I think. And
I
thought for me at least, it really fell flat.
It really played up the soap opera aspect of X-Men, though.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that's episode 6.
Is there anything else? At the end, we have
Trask and Mr. Sinister talking.
That's right.
But we don't really get new info there. We just get kind of like a
confirmation of like
these are not the big bads of this.
And they're working.
Season.
So like Trask was working for Sinister, who's working for somebody else. Like it's starting to put the pieces together of like, oh no, all these things that have been happening are connected, and somebody else is pulling the strings, not Sinister. Which, by the way, it's never Sinister. Just in case you're wondering, it's never Sinister. He doesn't care that much, and he's not that smart.
He's too selfish. He doesn't have these grand visions.
No, he's very yes, that's what it is.
He's all about how can I make myself better.
He's just he's weird. Anyway, they did it really well in this. Okay, episode 7. Bright Eyes.
Bright Eyes.
Okay, you gotta remind me, what was it? This one is Rogue is on a vengeance spree.
So Rogue has lost her love, and she goes. I mean, both of them, as far as we know, Magneto died at Genosha 2.
As far as she knows, yes. As far as we know,
she goes out searching for Gyrick and Trask.
Yes. And the last time she knew is that they were in custody from the U.S. government.
Yep. So she drops in on General Ross and Captain America, has a really great confrontation with them, and kind of puts them in their place.
Yeah.
Like, Angry Rogue is not.
Angry Rogue is scary.
Not someone you want to mess with.
No.
She is on another level compared to most heroes in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, and she's not wrong. Like, that's the other thing, is I really appreciate that Captain America is like trying to talk her down and be like, we're on the same team, and she's like, if we're on the same team, my people are dying and you need to get off your butt and come help me now and stop delaying. And he delays, and so she just chucks the shield into a mountain. I want to watch now. I don't remember if he has a shield.
Oh yeah, because he has a cameo later.
He has a cameo later, so I'm like,
it would have been hilarious if they had like a post-credit scene for this episode of him just like hiking through the snow to go get his shield.
Like digging.
That would have been such a good.
That'd been great.
Moment. But anyway, so that kind of happens early in the episode.
Yes.
Let's see.
She ends up. No.
The X-Men get a message from Trask, who says like, "I'm in over my
Meet you
head
in
here.
Madripoor.
I'm in Madripoor.
I promise it'll be
help.
fine."
I need help."
And they're like, that seems like a
this
trap.
seems like a trap. Yeah.
But they also have nothing else to go on, and they have to follow like any lead that comes up, and so they do follow the. Yeah. This is definitely a trap.
There's a side story, which is Jubilee and Roberto going to visit his mom and telling her that he's a mutant. And there's like a very brief, like really sweet moment where she's just like, "I know, honey, and I still love you." And you're just like, "Oh, this is not what we get in X-Men." And then she drops the bomb, which is like, "We need you to keep it a secret because we're ashamed of it."
We have to think of the shareholders, my dear.
Yeah. This is gut punch, where you get like suckered into thinking a mutant is finally going to have a happy moment of acceptance, and then
with their parents,
like gets this backhanded.
No, if you want good family feels, you gotta go watch Miss Marvel.
Ugh.
Like, I'm sorry, it's not here. I know she's a mutant, so there is a good mutant family out there, and it is the Khans, and they're adorable. That's a promo for a different show. So we have that.
Yeah. So in Madripoor,
wait, didn't we? Because Rogue finds Gyrich. She's looking for Gyrich, and then she finds Gyrich, and he's in like...
Yeah, that's right. She takes his memories.
Beautiful house, and she's like, "What the heck is going on? You are not under arrest." And she takes his memories, but she doesn't see very much. Like, she sees it's like Nimrod.
Visions, right?
Yeah, but she does see Nimrod, and she does see somebody, but she doesn't know who it is.
And then Gyrich gets murdered by not Rogue.
By not Rogue. She doesn't kill him, which she almost does, but she doesn't. So
she probably wanted to.
She definitely wanted to. So she ends up back with the X-Men, and they go to Madripoor to meet up with Trask.
Yeah, to confront Trask.
To meet up with Trask, because he said, "I have something to tell you. I need you to meet me here." And so they go, and Beast, and they see a bunch of cybernetics tech, and Beast is like, "What? This is super high tech. This is ridiculous," which of course makes everyone really nervous. If Beast is like,
Beast
"What is
scared
this?"
of the technology.
That's not good. Not good. And there's Morph calls him poor man's Oppenheimer.
That's a great line.
Morph has some great lines.
Rogue did not kill Gyrich, but she does kill Trask. She drops him out of the window once she realizes he doesn't have anything else to offer them.
Yeah, and she drops him off the building.
Yeah. It's like out of the window, but they're like, I don't know,
he's
10,
like, "I'm gonna commit suicide." And she's like, "No, tell us everything." He's like, "I've told you everything." She's like, "Cool."
Yeah, and then she lets him go. So a bit of a dark moment for Rogue, but
she gets really angry, and
it fits with what she's going through as a character.
It does. Sure. It fits thematically and all the things. And then, but surprise, he's not dead.
He's not actually dead because
he's a Sentinel.
He's been turned into a Sentinel human hybrid cyborg, like zombie technology.
Oh, and they did the great Foley of the like breaking the celery for this heads turning around
and so
it was a good twist.
So he quickly disables like half the team.
He disables everybody until an EMP gets tossed over to him, and Cable shows up, which was awesome.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
Such a good moment.
That fight scene was really cool too, though.
It was a really cool fight scene.
The X-Men are like they're fighting for their lives, and they're losing.
But they're doing their best. Also, Jean catches a building.
Yeah, that was sick.
She could have caught Trask. She chose not to.
Yeah.
It's just like, you go, Rogue. Also, like,
I don't know if that's what they were going for, but it's definitely true.
It's definitely true. She caught a building. She could have caught him. She didn't. Yeah. She chose not to. Also, like, Nightcrawler was like, "Oh no, Rogue, what have you done?" But also Wolverine is like, "Yeah, that was the right call."
Yeah.
Everyone's reaction to that moment was
sometimes justice has to be served.
Very, very good, but also very sad. Also, Rogue. Also, we didn't mention this, but Rogue and Nightcrawler have some really beautiful moments in this, and he, finds her after when she's in Mexico City or something. Oh, I can't remember where she is. After she had taken
Gyrich's memories,
and he finds her, and she just is he hugs her and she's just crying and she turns around and all the X-Men are there. And it's just really, really beautiful. Just the continuing theme of family in the X-Men, that they are a family. And that's, in conjunction with Roberto and his mom and her being terrible. And, and then as, we discover, so the EMP goes off.
And then Cable tells them that Sinister is working with an even bigger threat.
Yes.
And then we finally meet the big bad at the end of episode 7.
We meet the big bad as he murders Gyrich.
Yeah.
Hey.
And it is Bastion, who is...
They don't say his name, but yes, it is Bastion. Yeah. Just for clarification.
I think it was in the credits, though.
It's in the credits.
So, so he has a monologue with Mr. Sinister, telling him that Xavier's alive, and reveals
what do you say? You villains have been trying to kill them since '92.
Yeah. It was a really great meta slide at the villains of the X-Men.
Yeah.
But then he also reveals that he has Magneto as a prisoner.
That's right. So Magneto somehow didn't die, which is
super creepy. Scene where he shaves Magneto.
Yeah, with Flying Purple People Eater playing in the background.
Yeah, that was
which is an interesting music choice. I see what they're doing with the music choice, and I don't like it. It's like it's like in horror movies when a little kid starts singing. It's just I see what you're doing, and I don't like it.
Stop immediately.
Stop, please.
Knock it off. Yeah.
So we end on Super Creep episode. So that's episode 7.
Yeah.
And that leads into episodes 8, 9, and 10, which are all titled which are all titled
Tolerance is Extinction.
Tolerance Extinction 1, 2, and 3.
Do we want to talk about
what do we need to talk about?
Highlights or lowlights leading into the 3-part finale?
No.
Okay. You just want to dive right in?
Yep.
All right. Sure, we can dive right in. So episode 8, Tolerance is Extinction, part 1. That's really hard to say. I apologize if we messed it up later.
Tolerance is Extinction, part 1.
It's revealed to the world that Xavier is alive. And this incites an anti-mutant protest where the school gets burned down.
Again. It always happens.
Yeah, we get some more info dumping from Cable, who
info dumps
tells them that Genosha is a fixed point. He's been trying to...
Genosha is a fixed point that he's been trying to avoid or rectify, and he can't. He can't even get there. He's
not able to even get there.
And then
which we saw when he tried to get to Madeline, and then
body slides out.
Back.
And then he also tells us that Bastion is basically a glorified techno-organic virus. That's how he works.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that Genosha is a fixed point. We get how Bastion functions is that he is a human sentinel,
basically,
with tech from the future, spread through a techno-organic virus,
which was given to his father,
and
then passed down
to
his son.
Yes. So, which is it that episode where we get the flashbacks, or not yet? I don't think yet. I think it's the next one. It all kind of blurs together because it's one big story. Okay, so we get that from Cable, which we're like, thanks, dude. That would have been really helpful to know 4 episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm like, why? It's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, we also learned that Trask is not the only person who was turned into a Sentinel cyborg.
Yes. He's not the only one.
Bastion is doing this to anyone and everyone that he can get his hands on.
Pretty much. And then once they are,
they're basically sleeper agents.
Yeah, they're basically.
So they go through this process to get all their cybernetic implants, and then they're just sent back to their lives.
Yeah.
There's this montage of families sitting together on a couch, and then the mom and dad turn into,
which is terrifying.
Which is horrible. But these are really bad guys.
It's really bad. Really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they all start attacking mutants. Mm-hmm. They just attack everybody.
They activate around the world. Dr. Cooper had been sent to kind of monitor Bastion's work.
The UN lady who the mutants didn't find on Genosha. She was there as part of the Genosha party, and she was not found, so she was assumed dead. But she was plucked out by Bastion, who, when he got Magneto, he also got her. So she is with Bastion, and he's monologuing to her, basically.
Yep.
And she's like, "Oh, you also have Magneto here," and he's like, "Yeah," and he's got Magneto collared, and for some reason undressed on a big X, and he's showing him all of the news footage, and it's really, really intense.
Yeah.
And she's like, "He won't talk." And they're like, "Nope." And he's there, and you see his tattooed numbers from the Holocaust on him. And she's just like, "What have I gotten myself into?"
Yeah.
And her being part of the UN kind of infers that it's not a personal thing where she's gotten involved. She's involved politically.
Yeah. And the UN has some part in this.
So Bastion basically has backing of powers that be across the world, which is not good. But apparently they also didn't know the extent to which his plans were going, because she is horrified at what is being done to people.
Yeah. And then when she sees the Sentinels getting turned into
the people being
turned into Sentinels, she decides to take matters in her own hands and releases Magneto.
She releases Magneto, and she says Magneto was right.
Yeah.
Like,
and then Magneto decides enough is enough. Charles, you were wrong. Humanity's obviously not going to tolerate us mutants. Goes up to the North Pole and releases an
EMP,
giga EMP that goes across the entire world and takes out all electronics, including all of the human Sentinel cyborgs.
So they're just down.
But then also, like, think of the ramifications for this. Airplanes are in the sky.
Hospitals
Homes, have people on life support.
Submarines.
People aren't going to be this is going to cause untold death and destruction across the world.
Just havoc.
And Magneto has just been brought to the point where he doesn't care anymore.
He doesn't care. He's done. He's done caring.
And his whole thing has always been, we need to prioritize humans, because I've seen what happens when humans decide there's a group they don't like and want to get rid of.
Yeah.
And
I think he's more and more just being like,
tried to buy into Charles's theory for a while.
He tried to do the right thing.
And in his mind,
he played ball.
He was proven right.
Yeah, it's true. He was trying to play ball, and it didn't work. Basically, in his view, which he's not entirely wrong. I don't know if his choice to EMP the globe was a correct choice.
I think it pretty clearly wasn't, because you're hurting so many innocent people.
So many.
It's the case of, like, how many civilians are acceptable casualties, and this was clearly, wherever you fall in that argument, this has to be too many.
It's just, it's messy, man. Woo. Yeah. X-Men is messy, and it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's making one of the things that I love about X-Men is that it makes us take a step back and think about ourselves.
For sure.
How does humanity actually deal with these kind of problems?
Yeah, and
I think they hit on the truth that our decisions, at least in history, have often been ugly.
Yeah, and people get hurt. People get hurt when we make selfish choices.
Yeah. Basically. And there's also just the reality that even if you're trying to do the right thing, sometimes things go wrong, and sometimes innocent people do get hurt. That's the world that we live in.
Yeah, and I think Magneto is one of those characters who is leaning into he models the how you react to bad things happening is important. Mm-hmm. Charles tends to be the character who doesn't react for some, like, he doesn't do things. His inaction is also a problem. Mm-hmm. Whereas Magneto's reaction tends to be also an issue. And then the X-Men kind of typically have been kind of the in-between of they are the ones who are trying to do the right thing by helping whoever they can, regardless of what is happening. So they're kind of the middleman. But I appreciate the dialogue that creates of Charles, who just talks but doesn't do anything, and Magneto, who doesn't talk and does too much, or does. He's very reactionary.
Yeah, and he's just willing to cross lines.
Yeah, he is, and it's really good to have characters like that when you write stories and when you create stories, to have characters like that, because they are more interesting and you can do a lot more with them.
Yeah.
Which is why Magneto stories tend to be better than Charles.
Yeah. It's the interesting scenario where you have a villain who truly believes that he's doing the right thing and thinks that the consequences of his actions are justifiable.
Yeah, and I think later we get into this is the question of, does that make Magneto a bad person?
Yeah. Every character has their flaws. I don't know if that is what makes Magneto a bad person or if it even does make him a bad person.
Yeah.
I think he does care about doing the right thing, at least for his people, which in this case is mutants.
Right. It's so hard. It's a hard,
Yeah. You have some villains, like Bastion is a good example of a villain who he's not trying to do what is right. He's trying to do what he thinks is best. Magneto is trying to do what he thinks is right.
There's a difference.
There's a huge difference.
There's a big difference between even like Sinister and Bastion. Like if we're talking like types of villains, like Sinister is just evil.
Yeah, he's like your classic like mustache twirling bad guy.
Like he's just evil to be evil to be evil. And Thanos is like that too. Like he just likes to
Comics
kill
Thanos.
Comics Thanos. He just likes to kill people. And there's just villains like that. And the Joker, who just likes to watch the world burn kind of thing. But then there's arguably more interesting villains like Bastion, who has a certain drive and purpose that he is aiming for, which isn't inherently evil, but it's the way you go about stuff often that is the problem. And then that's even more so with Magneto, who is actively trying to right wrongs his way. That's where we get into the trouble. It's his way. So it's really tricky when you don't have, a standard of morality. When morality is whatever you decide to make it, it gets real messy real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so that that sum up our part? Oh no, so part one ends with the crash landing of a bug spaceship for some reason, and Charles Xavier stepping out. So apparently the EMP also affected landing spacecrafts, because he full on crashes into the charred remains of the Xavier mansion because it burned again.
Yeah.
And he says, "To me, my X-Men," which, based on the X-Men that then show up in the "to me, my X-Men" moment, takes them a little while to get there. But
yeah.
Which is kind of funny. It was a great ending of like, "To me, my X-Men." It's like, yes, okay. It has big finale vibes because we began with our first episode, "To me, my X-Men,"
Cyclops
saying it, and Magneto saying it, and now we're back to the, we've come full circle, and now Charles is saying it, and let's get down to business kind of deal is what it feels like.
It was a very like daddy's home moment.
Lucy, I'm home. Does that make Wolverine Lucy?
Maybe. Let's go with that. I love it. Let's run with that.
And he'd be mad about it. Therefore, we're probably right.
And given his Wolverine, he probably has some splaining to do.
A lot.
Okay, so moving on to episode 9.
All right.
The penultimate episode of the season.
Or as I like to call it, the messy middle of the 3-part series.
Yeah, Tolerance is Extinction, Part 2.
Part 2.
I have to enunciate very clearly because those are big words. Xavier has come home and says, all right, we got to stop Magneto. There's obviously some hesitancy on the part of the UN because he's coming home after letting the world believe that he was dead. for a while.
Yeah, don't lie to people.
And
it's not a good foot to start on.
Yeah, his fake death, which it's not his fault he was assassinated.
It's not
right?
his fault he didn't die.
But letting
he
everyone
just didn't do it right.
Letting everyone believe that he was dead brought a lot of goodwill for the mutants.
Yeah.
Which and now was there's the point. Heightened tensions and conflict, and a lot of that goodwill is gone.
It's gone
now.
It's very gone.
But he unites the X-Men. He brings them together and says, "All right, we gotta stop what Magneto's doing, what Magnus is doing."
Yeah, this episode was weird to me because it was the "Let's Stop Magneto" episode, and the entire time I'm like, guys, he's not the problem. We have Bastion, who is currently down. Go get him. And it's like, no, we got to divide the team. And I'm just like, all I can hear is that MST song, "Slow the plot down, mateys, slow the plot down." And I'm just like, I mean, it wouldn't be an X-Men fight. It wouldn't be a full X-Men story if the X-Men didn't split up and fight each other, which was a little frustrating. But it finishes character arcs.
Yeah.
Which was important.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that part.
Yeah.
As far as like characters go, this was a very character heavy episode, which I really, really liked that part of it. It just also in the back of my mind, I'm just like, guys, just stop it. You have way bigger fish to fry right now. Like, yes. So, and that's my only quibble about it, is that we leaned into character and kind of ignored the plot for a little bit, which happens.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah. We do have Magneto confronting the X-Men, and
with an asteroid in the background.
In his classic red and purple costume with the helmet and everything, which was
a whole
really,
9 yards.
Really cool moment. He says, "Guys, you should come join me."
Because he's basically like, "Join me. I will keep you safe.
I will keep you safe.
It's nutso here."
Yeah. And so
who joins? Rogue
and Roberto,
who have been hurt the most,
the most recently,
which is fascinating. They're also kind of the powerhouse. Like powers wise, those three are very, very strong.
Very difficult to stop.
Roberto doesn't really understand his powers, but once he does, like, the dude's a solar flare. Like, he's
very powerful.
He's fine.
So they go up to Asteroid M. And the X-Men go to regroup on Muir Island. They decide they're going to split into two teams. Cyclops is going to take his team to the asteroid.
Blue team. It's very good.
Basically make Magneto do a takesies backsies.
Yes. Turn the Earth back on.
Come on, Dad. Turn the lights back on.
Come on, Dad.
Come on,
Give
Grandpa.
me the Wi-Fi password.
Grandpa, you need a Snickers.
Kind of.
And then Storm and Jean are going to take their team to confront Bastion.
Storm, Jean,
Beast is with them.
Morph.
Yeah, Forge is with them as well.
So the team is of 5. And the other 5 is
Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Professor, and Jubilee. Are we leaving anyone out? I feel like we got everybody.
I think that's everybody.
Yep.
5 and 5.
So yeah,
they split up.
They split and they start their confrontation during this episode, which I appreciated.
Yes.
Because a lot of times when you have this kind of like in between setup episode, like you don't quite get to the action, and it feels like, okay, you're just dragging it out for no reason.
Yeah, no, this show definitely does the thing.
Yeah,
they're like, we're gonna do a thing. Then they go do it.
They did slow down for a minute to kind of set the story, like set things up. But then they do get to the fight.
They set up that like Jean and Cyclops are saying goodbye to each other, which was was really poignant. Jubilee is mad at Roberto for angsty teen reasons. She's mad at him. Just lots of emotions are happening. Morph has to go confront Sinister, kind of, which is intense for him from the original series, which they've hinted at several times. And I haven't watched the original series, and I get that he's got some trauma there. So
just a bit.
A little bit. I mean, he's an X-Men, therefore he's probably got buckets of trauma. So that's part of their their prerequisite on their fill out form. You gotta say what all your trauma is, and if you hit enough, then you can be an X-Men. That's why Roberto's kind of on the edge, because he's just now embracing the trauma.
To dip his toes in the trauma pool.
Yeah, it's not really quite there yet.
Okay, so their plans are the team that's going up to the asteroid. Professor, they're going to get the helmet off of Magneto. Professor's going to
have a serious conversation again,
and is going to, if it comes to it, take over his mind and make him undo the damage that he's done, which is dangerous, but
yes,
the world is literally falling apart.
Yes.
And then the other team, Forge and Beast, have made a collar that's based on like the mutant power blocking collars.
Yeah.
That will block
the signal to
Bastion's ability to control the Sentinels.
Yes. So it doesn't take Bastion down; it just takes down the human Sentinels, which is good.
Yep.
But they have to put a collar on him,
which means they have to get right up next to him,
which is the dumbest thing. And I know and they explain the reason, and it's because they were like, we can make a gun, and it's just like the exact same gun that took out Storm's powers, and she was like, no.
Yeah.
So I understand, but also just literally anything else.
Yeah, they made it
literally anything else.
It was like they had options, and they chose the one that was the most difficult to accomplish.
Shoot a USB port at him, just like plug it in, like come on.
Or like an EMP grenade, like
come on, you're right, like just.
So anyway, they get to their places, they start their fights.
Airdrop it to him.
Yeah. They didn't know this is the 90s. They didn't have iPhones yet.
I know, they were very analog, and it really bothers me sometimes. Where I'm like, you're dealing with a guy who can hear technology. Start thinking outside the box. Like
this
maybe
the 90s. We didn't have Wi-Fi back then.
I don't care. You can think outside
90s
the
kids
box.
back me up.
You should have called. I don't know, something.
Anyway, they start their fights. Cable is with the
Cable. That's who we forgot.
And he gets mind controlled by Sinister because he has the same powers that his mom had, and the same susceptibility to Mr. Sinister.
Well, basically, he was.
What is with all these like multi-syllable, really hard to say?
All of the S's and SH sounds. It's so because Cable was in the power of Mr. Sinister. He is therefore under the power of Mr. Sinister. It's basically establishing that like once you are in Mr. Sinister's sphere of influence, he can like Uno reverse card you into mind control. So, and he did it with Madeline, and therefore it makes sense that he would be able to do the same with her offspring. I didn't have a problem with that. The timing was weird though. So that was intense because he, kills Jean again. So, and she, telepathically goodbyes to Cyclops, which in the middle of a fight on an asteroid. Not great.
Not good. A good moment.
Not good.
I mean, for the story, it was like
it was really very good. Well done. But
it was like, oh guys, this is not what our heroes need to be focusing on.
And by the time that's happening, Forge has gone down in the airplane. Storm has been shot out of the sky by Sentinels. Morph tries to sneak in as Sinister, which bold move, Morph. I see you, and well done. But fails. And then Beast tries to swing in Tarzan style to get the, collar on Bastion. Also doesn't work because there ain't no way you're getting into the hornet's nest like that. Just like.
So everything goes wrong.
It was a bad plan.
Everything goes wrong.
Everything goes wrong. Oh.
And then on the asteroid.
I had an idea, and then I left.
And then on the asteroid, the fight is not going great.
No.
They managed to make it onto the asteroid
They're on
using
the asteroid.
Nightcrawler to like teleport everyone in.
That's right.
Which was a really cool move.
It was a cool move.
And then the Professor goes to take over Magneto, and doesn't like Rogue slam the helmet on him to block his powers.
The helmet gets knocked off in the
Magneto, and then I think it gets put onto the Professor.
It gets put on the Professor by Magneto. He puts it on him.
Wolverine sneaks and
he does what he does.
Stabs Magneto.
His superpower is knives.
And
he knives him.
Magneto decides, all right, I've let you play around enough, and rips the metal off of Wolverine's skeleton.
Takes the adamantium out of him, which is like...
That's like the closing shot of the episode.
And so, it's not good. So we've had a big bad fight, and it did not go well. Nobody, so again,
it was a very like Empire Strikes Back
ending. Two Towers, Empire Strikes Back.
Had their first confrontation in the climax, and are left in a very desperate situation.
Bad. Yeah, pretty much. And so that's how we end that episode.
Yeah.
Moving into our finale.
Season finale. Episode 1 of X-Men 97. I wonder if they're going to call the next season X-Men 98.
That would make sense.
Probably not, though. Probably not. It would be pretty cool. I don't know. Might be a fun take there, Disney, Marvel.
Be very fun. Be very fun.
So yeah, they've witnessed what has happened to Wolverine. Everyone is in horror.
Yes.
And Professor is able to get the helmet off and take control of Magneto.
Yeah, enough is enough, basically.
Restores power to Earth. So,
but also
everyone sees what he's done, and I think Roberto and Rogue are kind of like, that's not what we wanted to have happen.
Yeah, I know. They're like, no, you messed up Wolverine. That's not okay. And so the team got back together. Mm-hmm. Wolverine is in critical condition for obvious reasons.
Yeah. That's what happened on the asteroid.
So on the asteroid, we have Wolverine's down. Charles and Magneto are down because they've been concussed by each other. And so, but everybody else is okay, and they're back together again.
In Bastion's lair. Sounds like some Dungeons and Dragons city.
Ooh.
Maybe off the
throw that away.
DM. Anyway.
Team Bastion.
Everything is
also
looking pretty bleak down there, and then the powers of the Phoenix come back upon.
Yeah, so everybody's captured. Bastion has captured, what is it? Forge, Beast, Morph, Storm. Sinister has Cable, who is doing his darndest to break that what's it called? Mind control. He's trying very, very hard. And then, they're gloating next to where Jean died, and then surprise, the Phoenix happens.
Yeah.
Phoenix doing Phoenix things.
Yeah. And so Jean uses the powers of the Phoenix to put the collar on Bastion.
She puts the collar on Bastion, all the Sentinels go down because the Sentinels were approaching and doing bad things and, taking out people. And so she takes out the Sentinels with the collar on Bastion. And she unsinisters Sinister.
Oh, that was so good. That was so good.
And my favorite is that his immediate response is like, "Where's Morph? Like, what do I look like? Like, dude, like, just to sum up his character runs to him, tell me what I look like." And he's like, "You look fine. You look the same to me," is what he says.
But then he actually morphs and shows him what he looks like.
And shows him what he looks like, and he's like, it's great.
He looks like a caricature bobblehead of himself.
He looks like a really, really old Megamind.
Yeah. Old Megamind.
Old Megamind.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes, so Sinister is not dead. Don't forget that, folks, because he still has all the knowledge of how to Sinister himself.
Yeah, so he could make a return in season 2 or 3.
Sins of Sinister arc. That'd be fun. You don't know that comic.
I don't know.
But it's worth a read. Well, it might be worth a read. It's a Sinister comic. Anyways, that'd be fun. So Sinister scampers off because he's been cowed, tail between his legs. Bastion is pissed because he's been belittled by a Phoenix, which he thinks is preposterous.
It's
cheating, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So they kind of get the upper hand, but then he gets the upper hand of Cable by taking his arm and synthesizing his arm technology and stuff onto himself, and gives himself wings and decides to dinosaur the Earth and flies up to the asteroid,
asteroid M,
to take it out and crash it into Earth. Because that's the logical next step.
Yep. So that's where he goes.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the other team is still up there.
They're still up there because they have comatose compatriots.
Yeah. So they are able to confront him, and as they're fighting, the government decides, hey, there's an asteroid, let's nuke it because of reasons. And to me,
it's the Magneto protocols, which is...
Yeah.
Yep.
I understand that, but to me, this was probably the low point of the entire finale, because just the decision making makes no, like,
and it was Iron Man
it was so stupid that it broke my immersion in the story.
Yes, it does do that. So okay, so just when it showed the Magneto protocols are nuke Magneto. That's it. That's the protocol. There's not a lot of thought really involved.
Clearly.
For reasons. So the frustrating part and the funny part is that, the powers that be are all in the room deciding to send the rockets.
Mm-hmm.
To send the rockets. And in the room is Iron Man, Tony Stark. Yes, Iron Man, Tony Stark, and Steve Rogers, Captain America. And they are like, this is a bad idea. And they just stand there. Because it's the 90s. Because it's the 90s. And do you know what was happening in comics in the 90s? They couldn't sell the Avengers comics. The Avengers comics only sold when the X-Men showed up in them. So it makes sense that Iron Man and Captain America literally just stand there and do nothing because...
Yeah. That kind of speaks to my experience as a kid.
They have no power.
I knew everything about Spider-Man. I knew so much about the X-Men
because they were what sold.
Like I didn't know anything about the Avengers.
No,
there wasn't a popular cartoon. At least maybe there was a cartoon at some point. But like every Saturday morning, X-Men.
Yeah.
Every afternoon after school, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And those were like the hit heroes.
Who also makes a cameo in this. Spider-Man 3 times shows up in this series, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So we have that. So we have, so they nuke Asteroid M.
They nuke Asteroid M.
Which basically makes it fall faster.
Yeah. It starts falling because, everything that was holding it up just got taken out.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just like, okay, you know what happens when an asteroid this big hits a planet, right? Like, it's really bad, especially for the hemisphere that it falls in.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I know, let's just shoot it.
We'll just blow it
up. So that it'll fall.
It's not how blowing things up works. Like,
oh, man.
I understand that the thought process was like, it'll blow up and it'll be gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did nobody run the numbers?
Yeah.
Where, like all you have, there's some I don't know the math. Don't ask me what it is. But I'm sure there's a scientist, I don't know, who maybe works for the government somewhere who is like, the mass of this thing and what you're shooting at it does not match. Because you need a certain amount of explosion power to destroy the amount of, like, there's a math equation for that I'm sure somebody knows who, I don't know, the government probably could call. I don't know, someone maybe at NASA who's in charge of rockets and mass and propelling things, and they just needed like another 24 hours.
Yeah.
To like really think this one through. Anyways, so it's really dumb decision.
Yeah.
By the humans, which, can I just say, the humans have not made any good decisions in this entire thing.
So that happened, and then the X-Men have to fight to prevent the asteroid from falling and crashing into Earth,
while also fighting Bastion.
Yeah. So it was very reminiscent of like the climax of Avengers: Age of Ultron, where they're fighting
the Sokovia
prevent
fall.
the city from falling onto
while
the planet,
also
while they're also fighting the big bad, the cyborgs.
The cyborgs.
They're not cyborgs,
the zombie robots.
The robot bad guys.
Mm-hmm. Very similar vibes.
Yeah. During this whole time, Xavier and Magneto are unconscious inside of Magneto's head because Xavier did some damage.
Yeah, did some mental damage.
Big damage to Magneto by forcibly taking him over, which kind of makes sense.
It does.
Checks out.
Checks out. It's a problem.
I've never experienced telepathy, but I would imagine like having someone take over your mind and do something that you don't want to do that you're fighting against. Probably not a pleasant experience.
Yeah, so basically they have their own version of Inception when they're in limbo.
And so Xavier has to go into his head and help him get out so that they can have someone with the proper powers to prevent this asteroid from crashing into the planet and destroying everybody.
Pretty much. We need Magneto.
Yep.
The theme of X-Men 97 Season 1 has been, we need Magneto. And Charles keeps saying that, but he never explains what he means by that, which is a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
He's like, no, we need him. And I'm like, why? He has done nothing helpful. And then it's like, well, this is, and then like he does the thing and I'm like, okay, just say why.
Yeah.
Like, anyways. So that was really good.
So that was good. I think one interesting thing that sets up is like, what are the personality ramifications for Magneto in future seasons?
Well,
like,
I can tell you what the current internet series are, and they're pretty good because they're based in the comics. And this show has been very based in the comics.
Yeah,
so in the comics, this happens of the minds mixing and breaking and all of that, and it's in it happens after Magneto takes all of the adamantium out of, it's the series of events are the same. And in the comics story, at the point of breakage in the brain of Charles and Magneto, so in the comics it's both of them, it kind of comes to a head mentally. The pieces of both of their minds combine into a single entity, and it's basically both of their anger combines.
Okay, that sounds deadly.
Into a character known as Onslaught.
Yeah, that sounds very deadly.
So there's like an Onslaught saga. It's a whole thing. So the theory is Onslaught has been formed, but he's kind of like missed Voldemort at the moment, and he needs a body. So
yeah,
it's kind of that's the theory. That's the theory. The theory that Onslaught is coming in next seasons, which will be interesting.
Because we do see what happens to Xavier.
Yes.
So basically, like, they're able to stop the asteroid from crashing, but all of the X-Men are presumed dead. And
well, they heal in the brain, and
they get the asteroid into space and it explodes. Right.
No.
Isn't that what happens?
No, it's not what happens. It looks like it explodes.
Okay, right.
It appears...
we're talking about what it looks like.
Okay. It disappears in a flash of light, which you may interpret as an explosion, but there is no
there's no debris.
There's no debris. Yeah. There's no smoke. The typical things that happen with an explosion. There's no fire. But it is gone, and it is very like, oh, they stopped it. It's gone. It's gone. Mm-hmm. Like gone, bad gone. And our heroes who are still on Earth, which would be Jubilee, Roberto, and Forge, who are basically watching the sky fall, and they see it, and Jubilee's face just falls. Like, she's just like, oh no.
Yeah.
Which kind of tells you like, oh, that's not good. That's whatever just happened. I don't know what just happened, but it's bad. Mm-hmm. And then we cut to
6 months later.
6 months
and
later. Yes.
Forge is like
by himself in the basement, with a board of all known kind of X-Men people. Like, basically anyone who's ever been on the X-Men is on this board with locations of where they are or aren't, which is a really interesting. There's some really interesting videos. I'm sure you can see them out there, but where people have walked through like who is on this board, because it's
where are they? And, like, what
cool
storylines does that match up with?
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
But it does confirm that everybody who is on the asteroid is MIA.
Yeah.
Is gone and is presumed dead. And so he's, angry building.
Obviously having
he's angry building the way Forge does. And then someone appears, and it is
Bishop.
Finally
makes his way back in.
Yeah, comes back. I mean, for someone who can time travel, he has really bad timing. I'm just saying. Our time travelers come in either the nick of time or way too late. Yep. So it kind of feels like a plot device.
Yeah.
But he shows
up. They need a TARDIS is what they need.
They need a TARDIS. Well, TARDIS doesn't arrive really at opportune times either.
Well, it arrives when it wants to.
This is true.
Which at least gives you some direction.
Yeah. Gives you a little personality to be mad at rather than
anyway.
Plot. We're getting really in the weeds.
This is X-Men, not Doctor Who. Sorry for the distraction. Anyway, okay. Bishop tells Bastion.
Nope, Bishop tells Forge.
Bishop tells Forge, right, not Bastion.
No.
I'm getting tired here.
Bastion is, as far as we know, Bastion is incapacitated, hopefully dead.
Yep.
He was missing half his face. He was a little Two-Face looking.
Mm-hmm.
So look.
Bishop tells Forge that the X-Men are not dead, that they have been trapped in time, displaced. And you need to go, or we need to save them.
I love that he's like, yes, if I had a nickel for every time the X-Men were dead, I would have 2 nickels.
Which is not, but it's weird.
It's weird that it happened twice. It happens a lot.
And then we get a little taste of where the X-Men have ended up.
Yes, so we have one group who is in Egypt. Ancient Egypt,
that's the second group that we see.
Oh, sorry.
The first group that we see is Cyclops and Jean, and they're
in the future.
3960 AD.
3900s AD.
So they've been shot forward
future.
Almost 2,000 years.
Almost.
And they meet this. It's like a desolate wasteland.
With pyramids in the background.
Yeah, but they meet this kind of tribe.
Mother Ashanti?
Yeah.
Mother Ashanti, who then, there's a voice that says, I think they're okay. And she's like, well, okay, then Nathan and Cyclops and Jean are like... So apparently, this is where Nathan got flung when he and Bastion. Bishop, that is not helpful that their names are so similar. So when Bishop took Cable into the future to get him help for his techno-organic virus, it was established that they were separated at some point, and Bishop did not know what happened to Cable, which gave Cyclops all the guilt that he sent his son to get help, and then he's alone. So this is apparently where Nathan ended up with Clan Ashanti. I think I'm saying that correctly. And for all you comic people, Mother Ashanti is the name of another Summers child from a different timeline. We will be meeting her very soon. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember if it is Rachel or Hope. One of them, and they are very powerful. It's very exciting. And then we have our other group who, like I said, went to
they
basically the opposite end. Ancient Egypt, 3000s BC Egypt.
So that group is Rogue, Nightcrawler, Beast, Xavier, and Magneto.
Okay.
Yeah. We're kind of left hanging on what's going on with Wolverine.
He's with Cyclops and Jean. It's been confirmed separately.
Okay.
This is
but we don't see him on screen. So
we don't see him on screen.
And we know that he was not in good shape.
He was not in good shape, but it is kind of inferred that he's with them because the other group is very clearly seen. They were all on the asteroid, and only two groups. They've been split. Into 2 groups. So he's with Cyclops and Jean. I think there's one other person. Anyways, if they're not in Egypt. So then ancient Egypt, and they're fighting. They're like these guys, and then
they see this little fight breaking out, and they go to
talk to
help
the
guy who seems to be getting attacked.
Yeah, they're coming to help him.
He reveals himself to be
as Insabanur. Cyclops. Apocalypse. These people and their names are so similar. Apocalypse, who has the most beautiful lips.
Yeah.
Apocalypse.
So our heroes are...
And they're like, what did Beast say? Oh dear.
Very concerned about this.
Yeah. Also, this was fun. They go over the hill and they see ancient Egyptian town. There's a sphere, which looks an awful lot like Kang's tech from Quantumania. And if you read the comics, Kang goes back in time to meet Apocalypse. So we may be meeting a lot of folks.
Lots of big, interesting teasers for
and
season
then
2.
At the very end, we have a little clip.
It's a mid-credit scene.
Mid-credits, okay.
Where Apocalypse in the present day
on
Genosha finds one of Gambit's cards.
Excuse me. Yes, one of Gambit's cards. I will point out something. I did not recognize it as Gambit's card. What I saw was a queen of diamonds. And at the moment, Emma Frost, I believe, is
She's in a diamond form.
So that's
another interesting connection that I didn't make.
And yes, she is often referred to as the White Queen in the Hellfire Club. She is the White Queen, and she has a diamond form. So the Queen of Diamonds is actually what I thought of first. But I do think it is Gambit's card.
I mean, they could be putting teasers for both of them.
So the teaser that a lot of people are drawing on is that in the comics, when Gambit dies, he is brought back by Apocalypse to be his Horseman of Death. So Apocalypse in the comics, I think also in the original series, I'm not sure. His MO is that when he comes to kind of
he wants the 4 horsemen
do business,
of the apocalypse.
He does the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. He's got and death is one. Death, war, famine, and there's one pestilence, the bug one.
Disease.
That one. Those are the 4. And in the so what's been set up currently is in the comics, Apocalypse has resurrected Gambit to be Horseman Death, given Wolverine his adamantium back to be Horseman War. That leaves 2. Apocalypse tends to like Omega level mutants, which are basically the strongest mutants. So we have a Phoenix Force user, which would make Jean Grey a Omega level mutant, and Storm has had a level up like nobody's business, which would also make her an Omega level mutant. And all of those characters have had really big kind of character moments and plot development. So that's my pitch of who's gonna be in the Horsemen of Death and the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So it looks like, looking ahead in season 2, we are going to be following the story of Nathan and Apocalypse, and kind of the past and future and how they meet up, because basically in the original series, Apocalypse is the villain of Cable. He's the future villain. He's always in the future doing evil machinations, mustache twirly type stuff. And that's basically who Cable is always fighting, because Cable is from proper Cable with the arm and the gun and the glowy eye and all that stuff. He is from a future where Apocalypse wins and Apocalypse takes over. He's from the age of Apocalypse is actually what it's called. So yes, but also Apocalypse is who helps Cable fight off his techno-organic virus. So Apocalypse is kind of a mixed bag. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see Apocalypse. He is a very interesting character. He was done horribly in the live-action film. Horribly.
Yeah.
In the comics more recently, so not 90s comics, this would be in more recent days, which so probably won't be covered until at least season 3, I would think. Apocalypse actually has become I wouldn't say hero, but he at least is playing ball with the heroes and is on their team a lot of the time, which is really, really interesting. So I'm interested to see what they do with him.
Yeah.
And all that. And I really, really, really want to hear Nathan's story.
Yeah.
And all that. And I just want really a Summers family tree, please. And thank you. Because there's a lot of them. Did you know Cyclops has 3 brothers?
I knew he had 1.
He's got 3. There are 3 of them. Excuse me. He has 2 brothers. There are 3 Summers boys. Yep. There are 4 Summers kids in the comics. I think there's 4. There might be another one. So I want a Summers family tree, please and thank you. So They can have their own. It's kind of like Star Wars, how it's always the Skywalker family causing chaos in the galaxy. It's kind of the same thing in the X-Men. It is all the Summers family. Spoiler alert, it's the Summers family, pretty much every time. Yeah, so that's that. And then, so there's some fun. So that's been really fun. X-Men has been really, really fun.
Yeah.
X-Men has just, it's been all over the place. And then we're getting the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, which is kind of leading into more X-Men lore and X-Men thing. The villain has been released. He hasn't seen any of the trailers.
Yeah, I don't watch trailers.
He doesn't watch trailers. So I'm trying really hard not to release anything. But there is a big villain from, I think, from the Tolerance's Extinction storyline in the comics. Yes, who is been seen in the trailers. I will not tell you who it is. They are not confirmed as the villain necessarily, but they're there, and so that's good. We've got that going on, and there's a bunch of mutants that have been seen in the trailers. So that's pretty exciting. I can't talk about anything else because he hasn't seen it and he might watch the movie and he hates spoilers.
I hate spoilers.
Drop your spoilers in the comments.
No.
I will read all of them. He will not. All right. So yeah, this has been our coverage. This has been our coverage of the X-Men. I think up next as far as shows that we will be covering in podcast form, we are not going to be doing half seasons in podcasts. We will just be covering episode by episode. I think next is I keep forgetting what is next.
I think the Acolyte is next for Star Wars.
So we're going to change it up. We're going to do Star Wars.
Yeah, but we'll probably not do full podcasts about that. Those might just be like
us chatting,
15-20 minute videos, like episode reactions,
pretty much
that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So subscribe if you want to see
those.
Please
like, subscribe, ring the bell. Yeah. Do all the things, please and thank you. We love you very much if you would do that. Yeah. We got some content still coming out. I'm talking about books. You're going to be talking about, I think, tropes you were going to do soon.
Yeah. I'm going to try and do some videos
planned
at some point.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.